What's up, A to Z Sports here live on a Monday, a busy weekend, a busy week, a busy, 8-day stretch or so for the Titans and for the NFL as we are fresh off the week of firings in the NFL and also fresh off a weekend of 5 out of 6 wild card playoff games. We've got one more tonight between the Rams and the Minnesota Vikings, but we've got a lot to get to this morning when it comes to the Titans because recently fired Titans GM Ran Carthon is going to go on radio on 104.5 The Zone at 9 o'clock this morning in studio with Ramon, Kayla, and Will, which is a very interesting move. And so we are going to do our best to get out by the time that begins so you guys and we all can go listen to Ran Carthon in studio with our friends Ramon, Kayla, and Will on The Zone. But we're going to discuss kind of what we expect to hear and learn from Ran Carthon when he goes in studio. I've got my one question I would ask Ran Carthon if I were in that studio with a radio microphone on The Zone. But Zach, we'll get yours. We'll get everybody's input on what they expect from Ran Carthon as he faces the Fire today on radio in less than an hour. And Zach, you haven't been on the show since Ran Carthon lost his job under a week ago, which is wild. So tons of topics to get into. Mike Vrabel's also the new Patriots head coach. The shocker of the week, not so much, but Zach, a ton for us to dive into. Probably going to skip the age game today as the graphic shows, but let's get right to it. Welcome and hope you had a good weekend outside of your Bucs losing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I couldn't go to sleep last night for a little while just thinking about Doink City and fumble jet sweep face. That was tough.
Got too cute.
You know, time heals all wounds. Healing today. Titans are already in the healing phase and then rebuilding phase and restructuring phase. And maybe they're going to, break down some things today at 9 o'clock that we maybe some things we did know, some things we didn't know as Ran Carthon gets an opportunity to tell his story. And I hate when people say this, but his truth. We'll find out if that happens. But it's Monday, so let's get this thing rolling, and we will shortly. We are broadcasting live on 3 different platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Keep it locked in right there. We will tweet out segment by segment, link by link on our Twitter platform /X. You can go there at A to Z Sports. Give us a follow there if you're a Titans fan. A lot of people follow us on Twitter /X at A to Z Sports if you're a Titans fan. So that's a great way to interact with us and get all of the up-to-date Titans news. If you're an NFL fan overall, follow our company-wide X/Twitter handle. That is A to Z Sports NFL on Twitter /X. So we will tweet out link by link on our YouTube page. Subscribe, like, and ring the bell. Those are the 3 things we ask you to do if you are on YouTube. It's the easiest way to take part in our live streaming broadcasts every weekday morning, whether it's morning or night, whether you're talking about prime time or our morning show. So lock in, subscribe at A to Z Sports Nashville. You can search there and find our YouTube channel. If you like this show, it helps distribution, helps other Titans fans get in there. And if you've already done both of those, make sure you have our live alerts on. So when we do go live, and you get the notification right there to your cellular device. So that is your YouTube instructions. Facebook, what's going on? Facebookers, bottom left corner of your screen. Share, not a public. Sharing is caring, and caring is sharing, as we say on this show. Share the show around. We need to pop up in your Facebook friends newsfeed. So a lot to get to. Let's get rocking and rolling on a Monday morning.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. We are Nashville's on-demand sports network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Also, hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. Like the show, 5-star Google review. Those are the 2 requirements.
The Louis 5-star special, baby.
They've been flying in over the last couple of weeks. 5-star Google reviews. We do have to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us outside of the 5-star Google reviews. Wilson County Hyundai, make them a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon. Online, wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans and do that by getting a quote using our link today, fbhp.com/ATOZ. T-Dot helping us stay safe out there this weekend, and also keeping our state beautiful. Nobody trashes Tennessee.com, and our new friends at Bart Durham Injury Law. A crash can change your life forever, and help is only a quick click away at bartdurham.com. So, Zach, a lot has changed since you were last on this show. It was a first step as a doozy type of week last week for the Titans. Your reaction to Mike Keith leaving the Titans for the Vols to become the voice of Tennessee Vols?
Oh, that was the easiest decision since sliced bread, brother. I mean, that was put up on a tee.
I didn't know sliced bread was a decision. I thought that was more of a...
Well, sometimes you got to, if you ever go to Kroger, sometimes that bread's not sliced, right? You got to say, hey, can you go slice this bread for you? It's so much better when they slice it for you. You can open it up, make a sandwich for lunch. For Mike Keith, he had one decision to make and one decision only. Are you okay with living in Knoxville over Nashville? And you know what? All the Californians and the New Yorkers that have been flooding the city for years, he was probably okay with that, going back to his alma mater. Easy decision. The Titans are, woo! They are on the descent. Well, actually, they're probably rock bottom. I don't want to say they can't fall any further, but I don't know if they can fall any further. Maybe. Don't test me, Titans, but maybe you can't fall any further. The Vols, with the playoff opening up, them already making it this year, and then that opportunity, it's not a Titans thing. It's a Tennessee Volunteer thing. So easy decision, not surprised whatsoever.
Yeah, I was joking on that, but that not being the thing you to react to. But I did say this on Friday, and I do want to make this very clear. In my opinion, and based on what I know, if the Titans were on their way to the Super Bowl, Mike Keith would still make the decision to leave the Titans to go to the Tennessee Volunteers. That's just what that means overall.
I would push back.
I do believe.
If they were the Kansas City Chiefs and they were going for, history, I think that matters. What type of team you're broadcasting matters.
I think the fact that this job came open for just the second time in Mike's lifetime, I think that's why he took the Vols job. But the real reaction, Zach, is Ran Carthon got fired on Tuesday. We talked about Monday as somebody going to get fired on Black Monday between Brian Callahan and Ran Carthon. Neither of us really thought that either one had done enough individually to lose their jobs, yet less than 24 hours or so after we had that conversation, Ran Carthon out. Now, you did mention that you thought the GM job was shakier than the head coach, but a lot of nuance to unpack here. And what has been your perspective over the last 6 days since Ran Carthon got fired as Titans GM?
Well, we had heard the rumblings that, just because we're in the know a little bit more with boots on the ground, ears to the pavement, whatever you want to say. We had heard the rumblings that if there was a firing, Ran Carthon was probably going to be that guy. And I'd heard rumblings. I remember probably like 8 months ago. I don't even remember how long. I'd heard some stories on Ran Carthon within the facility and what he did and did not do. And it was from a reliable source. So I'd always remembered those. And I was like, well, that's not good. Those weren't great stories. I mean, they were basically stories that I think people have heard, is that not putting in the work, not being that grinder, not, crunching the tape, as now you've got your job. It's like anything. You get a contract, or you finally get your dream job, your general manager job that you've worked very hard to do. Are you going to push even harder, or are you going to take the chess piece move of a little bit of more PR, of entertaining players, making sure everything is set? And so I think you always have to work harder in life. You always have to work harder if you are going to get further. That is just something that I stand by and live by. And I think, especially when somebody else is in the fold, aka Brinker, I think that also influenced. The other thing that I think is not talked about enough regarding the Titans, but really in the NFL, every NFL franchise is a corporate America that you work and live in. Like it's not your just typical entrepreneurship. It's not a solo gig. You're not just a singular influencer. There is a political rung within. I mean, look at all the titles that are handed out each and every year, right?
Mm-hmm.
The salary boost, the different people. I mean, you have hundreds and hundreds, thousands across the country that work for these individual corporations, and it's corporate America. And Austin, and I think people will resonate in the chat that have worked under corporate America. I struggled with that. I pushed up against the man. They weren't going to tell me what to do. That was a struggle. But there's also a way to maneuver that. And I think politics within the building of corporate America is very, very important. Who is on your side? Who's not on your side? Who's trying to jockey for position? Who's okay with where they currently are? And it is a dog-eat-dog world in that scenario. And I think the Titans are no different. But the caveat is the Titans are a family-run business. They are, and I thought, I'm not a huge Mike Florio guy, but when he described them as a mom and pop shop, it was definitely a shot at the Titans comparative to the other NFL franchises.
Yes.
But the Titans are a billion-dollar mom and pop shop that are family owned. And Amy, and this is, look, I think Amy has done a lot better than the priors, right? With Bud's demise and passing, aging, and then not having a plan B, and then Tommy Smith. I mean, what she's been able to do has been positive, but I don't want to say that she didn't have the credentials or the, from start to finish of learning the business. She's really had to learn on the fly.
Yeah, for sure.
I think she's become numb to firing people, and I think you saw that last week, but I'm sure she had reasonings, and I'm sure we'll find out what Ran Carthon has to say about that here in about 40 minutes.
Yeah, because that is the news of the morning. I woke up to some information from our friends over at 104.5 The Zone, and Robert Walsh, who's the producer for Buck's Primetime Show and also the producer of the morning show on The Zone, gave us a heads up on this. But the news of the day, recently fired Titans GM Ran Carthon will be in studio with Ramon Kalen Will for the entire 9 a.m. Central hour on The Zone. Diana Rossini quote tweets that and adds her own context, the national NFL reporter for The Athletic. It is unusual for a recently fired GM to do a local radio show interview, but Ran Carthon seems to be ready for the questions. Good get by Ramon Kalen Will. So yes, very good get, and applause to Ramon Kalen Will. That is a massive, massive thing because Ran Carthon has been unemployed by the Titans for less than 1 week. And we have still never heard from John Robinson publicly in now 25 plus months of his unemployment by the Titans. So I don't know if there's a right way or a wrong way. I'm not saying one's right, one's wrong, but they are very different. That John Robinson, who still lives in the area, is working and doing some different things on the side, helping some different agencies or whatever, is obviously interviewing for the Jets job. He's learning some things about the college game as what GM jobs are doing there. But John Robinson has not done any public anything since his firing from the Titans. Ran Carthon's going in studio and doing live radio for an hour in the market on the flagship radio station of Titans Radio after less than a week after getting fired. I just think that alone is pretty wild. That's just my take.
I think, and we'll talk about what could be said, what will be said, and all of that. But the unique part about both of those instances is that a very short time prior to their firing, they were promoted. Like they were praised. They were, like publicly open to how good they were, right? And that, I think, again, you go back to corporate America as, hey, we're going to give you this raise. We're going to give you this new title. We're going to extend your contract. This is how we feel about you. And then a very short time after that, we no longer need your services. Mm-hmm. How does one take that? And I think that's where I and a lot of people are very intrigued. Ran has been a stand-up person and individual, right?
100%.
Like that, I think what we've known about Ran Carthon is that he does things the right way publicly, right? He's not going to give you too much information. He's not going to spill all the beans, but he's going to be respectable. And I think this is a strategic move by Ran Carthon.
Sure.
And I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. How it is done, I think, is going to be unique. But yeah. I don't hate this for Rand's purposes. This is a dangerous territory, right? Because perception is reality. We talk about that a lot. Yeah. How is he going to be perceived after an hour of probably pretty tough questions?
Yes. So I'll tell you what I know and what we can expect from this interview here in a second. But here's the big deal. We want this from you guys. What's one question you would ask Ran Carthon after his firing as Titans GM? If you were in the Zone studio with Ramon, Kayla, and Will, what is one question you would get to ask? You would want to have to ask Ran Carthon after his firing as Titans GM. We'll get to all of your answers, but I'll tell you this, the Bart Durham Injury Law, they've got your backs as well. They are new friends at Bart Durham Injury Law. A crash can change your life forever, and help is only a quick click away at bartdurham.com. We know what the roads have been like this weekend after getting a bunch of snow on Friday. Maybe not as much as we expected in Nashville, but still quite a bit. There were a ton of accidents in Williamson County last week. I know they reported that. And that could maybe involve a big truck sliding on the ice. But Bart Durham can be there for your justice. You deserve to be paid if you've been injured in a car accident, in a big truck wreck. That is their fight for justice for you. BartDurham.com is where to go. You can reach Bart Durham team at 24/7 at their website, BartDurham.com, or at their phone number. It's super easy, 615-242-9000. That's 615-242-9000. Their website is always open game for you with current news, blogs, and a contact and live chat right there for you as well, BartDurham.com.
AZ Sports, we are powered by BetMGM. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports for new signups. You've had playoff football all weekend long. You even had college football playoff prior to that. You got still one more wild card weekend game tonight. It's in Arizona, but the Cardinals aren't playing. It is the Los Angeles Rams against the Minnesota Vikings. Could be a high-scoring game. You got two good quarterbacks that have played well. We'll find out tonight. You can get in on that action with BetMGM. Download the app today at your Apple or Android app store.
All right, so Ran Carthon is going in studio with 104.5 The Zone, Ramon, Kayla, and Will. That's 9 o'clock. We're about 35 minutes away from that. So we asked you guys, what is one question you would ask Ran Carthon if you were in that radio interview? Here's what not to do. This is like if you get the genie out of the bottle and you have 3 wishes, and in the Fed Chicago just burns one of his wishes accidentally. Rand, don't you have a non-disclosure agreement? Like, that's not one of the questions that you should use. Not one of your 3 wishes if you're limited. Like, you just completely wasted your one question in the Fed.
Yeah, well, and yeah, I mean,
the answer is probably yes
to that. But he can take the risk, right? I mean, just like with anything, if there's going to be litigation, there's going to be litigation. If not, there's not, right? What is he going to say? Is he going to burn bridges? Is he going to burn down the Titans' house? Is he going to, disclose all the skeletons in the Titans' closet? Because fans know there are skeletons in there. I mean, you're not the worst team in the NFL picking number 1 overall without any bones right there that need to be shown. Yep. So he can go about this a lot of different ways. And that's why I say, I mean, what we know about Ran, he's a stand-up guy, and that doesn't seem like his personality. But he also was just fired 2 years after being promised probably a little bit more than 2 years.
Yeah, without a doubt. And so, look, we ask you guys the question. What would you ask? One question to Ran Carthon in this radio interview. So, Zach, I'll let you go to the chat because
I can't. I have my. I think again, I'm biased as anything. I think I have the best question.
I think I have a really good one too. But look, we'll get to ours. So let's get to the chat and see if the chat asks anything that we would ask here.
Well, and I think you have to start. This is a very good question because everybody wants to know now that, Jim Wyatt released all the statements and all that other stuff after it happened. Trilogy Taylor says, why did you bring in your replacement, Chad Brinker? Go, right? I think we all want to know that. What was the concept behind that? And you basically hired your replacement, which that'll make you lose some sleep at night.
Without a doubt. And so that was what it's tough because my questioning was going to be a line of questioning or along that, but I had to get did you know that Chad Brinker or I'll save mine. Never mind. I'll save mine for an event.
Did you make the Will Levis pick? I think, I mean, he did as far as what they
collaborated on it.
Right. But that's a good question. How much collaboration?
Let's spend some time a little bit on some of these questions, because on the Levis thing, it was reported by Paul Kaharski, and I'm sure we'll get to Paul Kaharski's report again shortly. But it was reported there that all parties were involved in the drafting of Will Levis, being Ran Carthon, Mike Vrabel, and Amy Adams-Strunk. You don't draft a quarterback ever in the NFL draft with one guy or one party not being okay and in and good with the approval of that decision. So that's the hard thing, is like, who brought it up? Maybe who was the loudest in the wanting of Will Levis? I think that would be a way to ask the question, because somebody started the conversation but that allowed everybody to end up being on the same page. But who was the one carrying the torch to draft Will Levis in 2023's draft? That is a great question.
And did anybody have reservations? Who had the most reservations about Will Levis? Here's what I think happened. I think Will Levis came into the building on his visit, met with Mike Vrabel, and he felt like he was a gamer, a hard worker. He wanted it, right? That's what Vrabel values, what we know about Vrabel. And I think Will Levis wants it. I mean, I think that's what he portrays, is that he wants it so bad that he can't have it. Right. I mean, that's a thing. You want, and then you break the bread. And I feel like that was probably a part of Vrabel. I would love to know from Ran Carthon, what did you see on tape that made you resonate to not only draft Will Levis, but trade up to draft Will Levis in the second round, not the first? Because that is a thing. Right? Yeah. You could sit there and say, well, it's easier to move off of him. But if you love a guy so much, you shouldn't be thinking about your exit strategy. You don't take a girl out on a date thinking when you're going to break up. Like that, I think that was my issue on there. Mm-hmm. Did you have full control? I think we can answer that no. I mean, full is a tough. The answer is no. He did not. Ran Carthon did not have full control.
But they told us this, right? Nobody had full control, right? But that was the whole point. Was you had the setup and structure that they had for nobody to have full control. So you have as many qualified opinions trying to do the best thing possible, right?
This is a good question. Who is trying to sabotage your name, Ran? Yeah. And why do they think you're lazy? Because that did come out, is that he was not willing to put in the work. And like I said, I'd heard that about 10 months ago. So that was not.
I want to go even further. 10 months ago, Mike Vrabel had just gotten fired. You and I had that conversation during the season. It was over 12. So like, I just want to make sure that we have you and I had conversations privately with other people about what we had been hearing during the season a year ago, 2023 season, about there not being a full grinding type of work ethic from Ran Carthon. So let's get to that part of it, because a lot of people's questions are about, did you fall asleep on the plane? Was the nap worth it? Why don't you grind? What about your work ethic? Because this was the report from Kaharski from last week, backslapping and laughing it up with people like who like you, while fencing yourself off from anyone who doesn't buy into that as magic formula for making things happen is not a route for success. His critics did not view Ran as a grinder. I've been told by all the important parties that they drafted Levis with everybody involved. Yes, we know that. But while Mike Vrabel and Carthon were at Levis's pro day in Lexington, Carthon left early. Some personnel people and scouts say early departures are not uncommon, but that left a mark on many people inside the organization. So too did Carthon's post-game routine after road games. Personnel people and scouts typically eat and then dive into the film of the game on the team plane. But Carthon slept. He napped, just like Paul said he does. And I do that on planes. I sleep on planes. So that was the report. And who's leaking that? Who is sabotaging your name? I think is a great question.
I think we need to talk about what a general manager represents in today's age, because it has more publicity today than ever, right? The general manager, Austin, you and I talked about this last week when we were just having a conversation about, Rustin Webster. A lot of people didn't even know who the hell Rustin Webster was, because it was a different era and a different time in the NFL back in the day, if you were a Titans fan or an NFL fan. And then Bill Polian goes on ESPN. The job starts to become, more, not saying it was less important, but more public.
Well, the draft gets more of the combine goes on live.
It's
TV,
evolved,
right? All of this stuff, it's the business of the NFL of becoming a 12-month business that is also a sport.
But, and here's their but, this is the biggest but, the bones of a general manager and how you get to that position is hard work and grinding tape. Okay? It is Eric Spoelstra. It's a great story, right? He went from video grinder to NBA champion at that point, but he continued to grind tape even when he was head coach. And as a scout, I would never want to be a scout. That's not one thing
that's
that
your personality.
Right. It's just not, I don't want to drive across Des Moines, Iowa to go see a guy throw. I mean, it's just not my passion. But that's what you have to do to climb that ladder. And the people around you that you work with and who work for you when you're an NFL general manager, they're all doing that because they're trying to get your job. And when they see you not doing that or taking your foot off the gas, they're going to tell somebody, and that other person's going to tell another person, and that other person is eventually going to tell the owner and your boss. And I think that's what happened.
Because guess who is on the road together? Every scout for every team. And they all talk the same people. It's a network that is tight because they're the road dogs out there for everybody. Now, Anthony says, easy on Des Moines, Iowa there, Zach. All right, I want to get to more of these questions that we and you guys would ask Ran Carthon if you were in this radio studio coming up in about 25 minutes. But before we get to more of those, I want to tell you guys about T-Dots. T-Dots out there, they got a lot of work ahead of them after the snow this weekend. And T-Dots' job is to keep our state as beautiful and safe as possible. Litter is a big problem. And T-Dot's been trying to find the solution to end littering across our state. And that's something we can all be a part of, helping out and joining in our community efforts to clean up litter. NobodyTrashesTennessee.com is the website. That's NobodyTrashesTennessee.com. Jump in, get your kids involved, your family involved. You can save money on tickets to local events just by going to NobodyTrashesTennessee.com, playing and poking around on the website, taking a litter quiz right there. Once again, NobodyTrashesTennessee.com.
A to Z Sports powered by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports. That's ATOZ SPORTS, all one word, no spaces. If you are a new user, got opportunity tonight with the last wild card game of the weekend. Download the BetMGM app today.
All right, King VC does say, lock in, like the show, leave a 5-star Google review. So hit the like button, and then later on, while you're listening to the Ran Carthon interview on The Zone coming up at 9, you can go leave us a 5-star Google review after the show. So, Zach, other questions that you're seeing from the audience to ask Ran Carthon if you had the chance?
I think this is one the Titans fans would want to know. Do you regret not attempting to retain Derrick Henry or regret not offering him anything? And how did that actually go down, right? Because there was talks about it, but he was going to hit the open market. We knew that the Ravens wanted him for the past year. I think that would be a good question.
Yeah, because I even had somebody tweeting me last night, right? Because I tweeted something about, Mike Vrabel that we'll get to here in a second, but of like, oh, yeah, the Titans are the team that got rid of Derrick Henry, so the joke's on you. The Titans didn't get rid of Derrick Henry. And I think knowing how much the Titans wanted to retain, but we also know this. Derrick Henry wanted to move on, right? So I think it's setting the record straight and saying that Derrick Henry did not want to return to the Tennessee Titans, not because he no longer loved or cared about the Titans, the fan base, the market, or the state, but because of the state of the team. He wanted to go continue to win as he turns 31 years old. And guess what he does? He looks like vintage 2020 playoffs Derrick Henry Saturday night, running for a $180 plus and 2 touchdowns in Baltimore. So, like, it was Derrick's
as he
choice.
enters the next round of the playoffs.
Yes, just like he did in 2020's January. Like, Derrick Henry chose to move on.
It's not Titans, you, it's me. I'm better Titans, than you, and yes. I'm leaving.
and again, Buck Rising reported, A2ZSports.com, October of 2023, the Ravens were interested in trading for Derrick Henry before the trade deadline. The Titans did not want to do that because they wanted to let him play out and have that Jacksonville Jaguars Nissan Stadium pregame, postgame opportunity to go out the right way. They didn't.
I also think that they didn't want to be honest, I don't think they wanted to disrespect. I think it was less about Jacksonville and more about what they were going to receive, not only for the franchise, but also the perceived value of the player.
Yes, because they were only going to get a day 3 pick. Like,
and
everybody's bitching about DeAndre Hopkins getting a 5th round pick from the Chiefs. That's going to be like pick 160. Derrick Henry would have gone to the Ravens for pick like 130. Like, that's not going to make anybody feel good.
And that's, you got to eat that. You cannot, because then you'll be remembered. Titans, we traded Derrick Henry for a slice of cheese and a 5th round pick. Like, what were we doing? Like, you can't do that. So that actually was a smart thing by the franchise not to trade him in the season based on perception, especially what we know now. But I think it's a good question to give context of, talk us through the Derrick Henry situation. That's a great, easy question that Ran Carthon can answer today.
Because they clearly wanted a running back in free agency, because the first move they made was signing Tony Pollard to a 3-year deal. So they had something kind of ready. Let's keep on going. You got any more questions you see?
Let's see here. How did you guys land on Callahan? He wasn't even a top 5 coaching candidate last year. I would disagree with that, that last part. But I do like the question, how did you guys land on Callahan, and take me through that process? Because now you don't, the best part about this is Rand's playing with a little bit of house money. He doesn't have to report to anybody. They're still going to pay him the salary that they promised, the contract.
Unless there's some type of NDA violation.
and he gets to kind of disclose some of his true feelings. This is a good opportunity when you leave a job and they ask you as an exit interview. I'll tell a story regarding that, but like, this is a good opportunity. You air your grievances, and you don't have to do it negatively or dirty or, sadistically. You don't have to do that. You can do this and just be honest and give context, right? That's really what we want. Why were you sleeping on the plane? Well, actually, this happened, or this was my thought process. Yeah, so that helps him.
I do want to go into this because Bobby Lee says, question, was the nap worth it? So, like, here's what I know. I know that Ran Carthon wanted to play ball and wanted to come in and talk to Ramon, Kayla, and Will on the zone. I do know that he is not planning on, he can't really burn anything down because he has a buyout contract that he would love to have for as long as he can have it. But I do know this. He will be asked about the negative work ethic, napping on the plane, leaving early from the pro day to be able to clear the air. Because, and I thought this was interesting. Somebody asked, why does a GM have to break down tape of a game he just watched in the season, like that is not a general manager's direct job responsibility. That's a coaching staff and maybe the people that are tasked with cutting up the film to make the coaching staff's life easier. That is their job. Now, does the GM have input? Yeah, but that is going the extra mile. But just because Ran decides to not do that for an hour plane ride doesn't mean that he's not doing that right when the plane lands in his office. Like what's the difference? Like you gotta sleep at some point. So what's the difference in sleeping on the plane and sleeping later? Like you can still get that job done to be a support or a resource for somebody else in the building.
It's leadership. Outwork everybody in the room. This is where I disagree with that. Especially, again, going to the structure and the culture of prospecting, right? They have to know how hard you work. They have to know what type of guy you are. And I think that they saw that in Chad Brinker, and they didn't see that in Ran Carthon. And I think that got out and got leaked to the wrong or the right people, right?
Right. And so, Zach, I want to ask
that matters. You're playing corporate game, Austin. This is not that's important.
But I do think that it's communication, right? Because if Ran Carthon, if it's known, everybody's got routines, right? Routines are important for people that work their ass off. And I have my routine just like you do. And I try to communicate on my routine so we can be on the same schedule. If the people that need to know that, hey, I'm gonna reset. I'm going to take this nap on this plane so I can clear my mind, so I can attack this film with as clear of a mind as possible and do a great job to help you out, Brian Cat. Whatever it is, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm just trying to speculate on the other side of things because
I don't think that's how the culture of what his job is. That's the problem.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't
know. Think there's a maybe. I think that is what it is. Like,
my point is,
we know that about player assessment. There's always more tape to watch.
Oh, I agree. But again, like I think that if it was an isolated incident, then it probably wouldn't be a big deal. But clearly there's a pattern. There's more than just sleeping on the plane ride home.
Yes. All right, Austin, what is your question to Ran Carthon today, now that of all we know up until this point?
I will tell you after you tell me about Farm Bureau Health Plans.
FBHP.com/A to Z is where to go to get your new health plan. You can take a quick health assessment and get a quote. It is free, it is easy, and it could change your pocketbook and your life. Health, dental, and vision, 200 plus locations across the state of Tennessee. They've got agents that can help you. So if you want that on the ground feel to make sure that you've got your perfect plan, Farm Bureau Health Plans has that. They've been in business over 75 years. They can be trusted. So many Tennesseans around the state take part in Farm Bureau Health Plans. They're partners with the Titans, the Vols, the Predators, with A to Z. They are trusted in the state and in all of the communities statewide. That's Farm Bureau Health Plans, FBHP.com/ATOZ.
Also, BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Man, the Chargers. The Chargers kept me from hitting a plus 700 parlay. It always sucks when you have the 4-leg parlay, and I don't do this often, but BetMGM gave me a parlay boost for pro football playoffs, so I had to dabble with it, and I had 4 legs. The first leg was Chargers -2. That sucked. So guess what? The other 3 legs, of course, they hit. And it was like, do both teams score 20 or more in Pittsburgh versus Ravens? I said no. Easy pick. The Steelers weren't scoring 20 points. Give me a freaking break. Then I did anytime touchdown for James Cook. Bingo. Anytime touchdown for Josh Jacobs. Bingo. The other 3, cake. But, of course, the Chargers screw me over by 4 interceptions by Justin Herbert. But if that was my first bet, then I would get all that money back in bonus bets because I signed up with our code ATOZ Sports. That's ATOZ Sports. If you're a new user with BetMGM, download the BetMGM app today. Again, use that code ATOZ Sports, up to $1,500 back in bonus bets. If that first bet misses, Once again, to reset here, we're getting closer and closer. Ran Carthon going on, Ramon, Kayla, and Will at 9 o'clock Central Time. We're going to wrap up here shortly so we can get to that interview. But my one question that I would ask Ran Carthon if I were in that radio studio is, does he think he would still have his job if he did not hire Chad Brinker as his assistant? Now, that's a yes or no answer, but that's because I have like 5 other follow-up questions.
We only get one question, though.
I know. But I have to, but like I have one question I could ask him.
I think you're wasting your question on a yes and no.
I'm not wasting my question.
You've been reporting too long to do. That's a no-no.
But I have to get something on the record so I know what direction to go with my follow-ups.
There are no follow-ups. We just give one. That's why I think, I don't know if this is a good question. Okay. It's kind of like the NDA question.
Well, because the real question that I want to know the answer of beyond like the on the record, and I don't know if Zach froze or if I froze. I think it was Zach that froze. So my actual like in-depth question is, are you back? You got me?
I'm back.
Okay, cool. My actual like in-depth question is, when did you know, when was the moment that it hit you that you knew that Chad Brinker was now going to be your downfall?
Like that's a good question.
Yes.
You got a makeup question. That's a good question.
I had to get the, like, I had to go.
Well, you don't know. You don't have to know the previous question. That is the right question, because now he has to explain a moment, right? Now that's good reporting. That's journalism. I'm not even a journalist.
But journalism is you got to know the facts too, right? And so the facts, I had to know both. But my one question for him to expand upon is, what was the moment that you knew Chad Brinker was about to be your downfall? So
that's pretty good. I am going another route. Okay. I don't care about Chad Brinker. I don't care about Will Levis.
You should care about Chad Brinker because he's the future right now.
Well, you haven't heard my question yet.
Okay.
I care about one person and one person only. And my question, now that you no longer work for that organization, is, what are the strengths and weaknesses of Amy Adams Strunk in her ownership of an NFL franchise?
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I want to know. I want to know what you think and what you've seen that she does well. And I want to see what you think she does not do well at all. And that is the most coveted information that fans truly want to, and I think need to know. That would be my question.
I had a feeling you were going to go towards the Amy side of things, and I'm curious. I don't think that's something that he.
Oh, I think he'd answer. I think he would.
Strengths and weaknesses.
That's why I say that's why it's a well put together question. Tell me some good things about your relationship,
I know.
And tell me some bad things. You made love hard, but you fought harder, right? I want to know both. I want to know both sides.
I think you'll get strengths. I don't know if you will get. You're not going to get weaknesses because.
Why not? You don't work for her anymore.
Yeah, but she's still controlling.
You don't have to rake her under the coals. You don't have to say she's a bad person. You don't have to say all that. I want to know the weaknesses, in your opinion, of her running a NFL franchise. I mean, I'm sure that you and I could probably come up with both sides of those, right?
I don't disagree.
But he was on the ground floor, and that's why that answer is valued.
It would be a valuable answer. I just don't expect to get it. And Highway Rambo says not if he wants to work again. Because that's the other thing to this is Ran Carthon doesn't want to just take the buyout money from the Titans contract and be done. He wants to continue to work. He's a young guy in this industry. He can still go out there and work for another 20 years in the NFL. So I guess
it's understood, Austin, that everyone has strengths and everyone has weaknesses. It's not that big of a deal to talk about them.
It is, on a live radio show in the market that she owns the football team. That is a big deal. Again, I love the question. I just don't expect there to be an answer for it.
I think that I think you absolutely have to ask that question. Now,
I don't,
again,
I agree. I agree. You have to ask it. But again, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the answer that I don't expect.
but how do you avoid that question if you're Ran? If let's say you're sitting down, we'll find out very shortly, and this show has, gone very quickly. But if you ask that, you really can't avoid it. And if you don't want to answer it, you're going to have to just say, I'm not willing to answer that question. And that's also telling.
No, what you
Because
do,
that tells me that the organization and the NFL has still got a stranglehold around
Sure.
Ran.
Right, because there was a comment right here that I wanted to get to. Her friends are owners from Ben. She talks to the owners. She'll be at the owners meetings here in a couple months. And so, like, that's who's going to be Rand's next employer, right? So here's how he's going to handle that question if it's asked by Kayla or Ramon, is that he's going to spend about 2.5 to 3 minutes answering the strengths about Amy, and then probably to make a joke, and then distract them to see if they can just move on to the next thing without realizing that he didn't answer the questions about the weaknesses. Now, will they follow up? That's the key thing. Or will it be toward, I don't know. They need to follow up with what's the weaknesses and press him on it. And then if he says, well, I'm not going to get into that, I respect Amy, blah, 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 and then just leave it like that. That's exactly what is probably going to happen, in my opinion.
But let's not get butthurt over this. Lane says, would Zach be okay if Buck doing the same thing if and when Buck moves on? I could probably assume some of the criticisms and the weaknesses that all of our employees would say about me. I'm okay with it. I get it. My feelings are not going to be hurt.
Yes,
I'm also not a billionaire, right?
Yes.
And
nor are you the person who has fired 3 high-ranking employees in your company 3 years in a row.
Correct, right? So
after failing.
But there has to be, when you have actions like that and you're in the position that you are, you have to be open to criticism. Those are you're influential in a full community, in a state, in a nation. I mean, you're one of 32. And so I don't think Amy would be, I'm sure she probably wouldn't like to hear her weaknesses, but I think she's stronger than, getting upset about that. That's why I don't think it's that big of a whoa question. I think it's the right question. And I would love to see if they get into that.
Again, I agree with you. It's a great question. I agree 100% it has to be asked. I don't expect him to answer it. Ryan Super Chat says, where was J-Rob on radio after the AJ Brown trade? He was not on radio after the AJ Brown trade. I do have another question. We're coming up on 9 o'clock. So I want to get to this, but I want your thoughts, Zach, on why do you think Ran Carthon is doing this? That's what I want your thoughts on. Why do you think Ran Carthon is doing this? Real quick, the Bone and Joint Institute is where you should turn for all of your injury needs. Maybe, hopefully, you didn't slip out there on the ice or the snow. I actually did. I busted my butt in the backyard making sure my dog was safe, and I'm the one that was wearing the wrong footwear and landed on my back end pretty tough there on Friday. But okay, the Bone and Joint Institute, if you are injured in any type of way in life, or in sports, they've got you covered. boneandjointtn.org in Franklin off Highway 96 and I-65, boneandjointtn.org.
A to Z Sports, we are powered by BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today. Sportsbook born in Vegas, in Tennessee. You can go to your Apple or Android app store and download BetMGM.
All right, this is just funny. Mike says Rand took the 9 a.m. slot on the show because he needed to sleep in. So ha ha ha.
That's my answer.
Yeah,
that's why. Is that there's this perception, Austin? If somebody said that I was a lazy POS for this company, I'd go Dave Portnoy on their ass. I'd set up a phone and I'd sit there and I'd speak exactly how I feel, give some context, tell them exactly what it is, and defend yourself. It's okay. Nobody has a problem with one defending themselves, right? There's always 3 sides to every story, as we say, right? And so that's exactly why Ran is doing it, is to defend himself after the last week of what has leaked out or stories or all of that stuff. So I completely understand it. And like I started the show, I don't hate that he's doing this. He's going to have to probably tread lightly because he wants another job. But Austin, let's be honest. Brian Flores sued his franchise and his league because of discrimination. And Brian Flores is about to coach a playoff game tonight.
As a coordinator.
That doesn't matter. He was not annexed from the league.
No, he was not. But
after suing said league.
I know, but they're like it will.
So like this is not crazy. That's why I say if Brian Flores can do that and still have a job, that I think is telling. I really believe that is like we should be open. It's a radio conversation for a small market team. It's not going to change unless he says something wild. It's not going to redistribute his career path.
Yes. So I agree with you. The reason why I read that comment about sleeping until 9 a.m. is because that was the transition to get to my thoughts on it. Ran has his image to protect and because somebody went out there and leaked that to Kaharski after he lost his job, and he should defend that for his work ethic and what all he's put into getting to this point. But Ran will be on live here shortly on 104.5 The Zone. I know Easton and Sam are getting ready to have content reaction on our website, a2zsports.com/Titans. After this is over, we'll talk about Mike Vrabel throughout the week, maybe getting his job with the Patriots once we have a chance to circle back to that. But I do want to give one quick shout out, WilsonCountyHyundai.com. That's where you should turn for all of your new car buying needs. WilsonCountyHyundai.com in Lebanon. Make sure you save some money on that new ride. Go see our friend Pain Bone. Zach, are you ready for this? I mean, I think that the biggest reason why John Robinson didn't do something like this is because when John Robinson got fired, the reasoning was all about what happened on the football field and not his character, right? That I think is the biggest difference. So that's it for us. We're going to jump over to The Zone. Make sure you like the show, hit that thumbs up button subscribe to our channel as well. We'll react to all of this tomorrow. Buck Rising live tonight at 7 p.m. Central. Appreciate it as always. Catch you guys later.